All right, I'm going to do something a little bit different this time because I realized I don't really remember shit very well at all when it comes to us. I have a horrible short term memory. I think it's easier just saying that I got hit in the head a lot. And so my memory is better for long term use. Um, anyway, so we're going to back up a little bit. Um, and start with the online dating when we first met. Of course, I think the last story I told was my side of it
Yeah.
about meeting you, but when you started online dating, what made you start online dating?
Well, I lived in the middle of nowhere, Arkansas. So I was looking outside of there because honestly, Arkansas was just there wasn't anything there.
Yeah,
So of course, look outside of Arkansas, and I started using a free website because I was a waitress and I didn't have any money. Broke waitress, single mom.
oh,
So I was just looking at, using the free website, and I wasn't actually looking for a relationship. I was just wanting to go on a couple dates, feel good about myself
yeah,
because I had just got out of a marriage a few months before that, and was just felt kind of down about myself. And so I needed to feel good. And I thought, well, I could go on a couple dates and maybe that would be, something to make me, boost my confidence,
awesome.
self-esteem. There we go.
Well,
And ended up not even going on any dates except with you off of the website.
so when you saw, because I mean, I really wasn't doing anything standoutish that I knew. I mean, I don't know what other guys do, send dick pics or whatnot,
No, I didn't get any of those that I remember. But
but
I mean, I don't remember much either.
But I mean, I know I made a comment about your truck, and that was about it. I mean, you were
Yeah.
actually kind of hard to, get a conversation out of.
Yeah. I mean, think about me now. I don't
Shut
talk that
up.
often. Well, I mean, like to other people.
Yeah,
To you, yes, I don't shut up. But other people, I'm more reserved until they
yeah,
get to know me, and then again, I don't shut up.
yeah.
I have to tell people, hey, just if I'm talking too much, just tell me I'm talking too much and I'll
Yeah.
stop.
So tell me. I mean, go ahead and start telling me about.
Okay, so I got your message about the nice truck, which I loved that truck. I should have kept it. I was an idiot.
It was just a basic truck.
I still loved it. It was mine. It had a lift, a slight lift, not a big one. And it was green. I do like that.
Anyway,
Anyway, so you said nice truck. I can't even remember what we talked about. And then we got talking about things that we liked and movies we watched. And we connected on the Left Behind series because it was that new Left Behind movie.
oh,
And I think, you were talking about also about that
heaven is for real.
heaven is for real too.
Yeah,
But we, what got me really talking to you was the Left Behind series
yeah,
because I love the original ones and I had been wanting to see the new one,
yeah,
and you had seen the new one, and
yeah,
I wanted to know what you thought of it because I'd been wanting to see it.
yeah,
I think that's what it was.
yeah. It's all with Nick Cage in it or
Yeah,
something. It
the
wasn't.
the newer one was with Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, I mean, there's a newer one now, but yeah, back
Yeah, the
then.
one then was Nicolas Cage,
Yeah,
and then I know I can't remember what else we talked about, but we talked about a lot of
yeah.
stuff. Uh, and then after you went on that horrible date with the other person, you basically said, "This is it. If you want to go out, I like you. If you want to go out, uh, just it's now or never." And so we're like, "Okay, let's go out."
Yeah.
It was like 2 days later we went out and been together since.
Yeah, I don't beat around the bush. I didn't understand that. Like a lot of people that I've talked to, even now that do online dating, they don't know how to ask anybody out, and
No.
that's why they do online dating. I'm the opposite. I know how to ask somebody out. I just, it's hard to find good people to go out on a date with. But going out on that, yeah, I really wanted to go out with you, but to be honest, I wanted away from that because I felt dirty.
Yeah.
I mean, after that horrible experience.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we're going out.
Yeah, we went out. We actually met, I think it was out at an academy.
Yeah, in Fort Smith.
Yeah, in Fort Smith because we didn't know where else to meet because you didn't know Fort Smith very well.
Yeah,
And so I was like, well, here, we'll meet here because I wanted to go to Academy Sports. I mean,
yeah,
I'm a country girl, or I was. And so we met there. We walked around, talked a little bit, and we decided to go get some Burger King. Fancy first date. Because I was not, I'm not, I don't like fancy things.
yeah,
So we went ate at Burger King, and then we went and saw the movie Box Trolls.
yeah.
And after that, we went and walked around one of the parks up there and just talked for it seemed like hours.
Yeah, I remember that now.
And when we were getting ready to leave, the girl who I was friends with, who had brought her boyfriend, so we could do the double date because, again, I mean, we was on like dating and I've never done it. I
Yeah,
was nervous. Her boyfriend's truck broke down, so we had to tow it out of the way and off, away from where it was because it was in a place it was not a good area or a good place for it to be broke down at.
yeah.
And then after that, I went home. I did bring you donuts. I can't even remember what I said. I know I made fun of you about being a cop, and I had donuts, and I said something about you liking you must love donuts because you're a cop or something. I can't remember
Mm.
exactly what I said, but I know I brought you donuts.
So I think that first week we actually started seeing each other quite often.
Yeah, you drive down on
Like,
the weekend.
yeah, I mean, so we spent a lot of time together.
We went out on Halloween together.
Yeah, that's when I met your mother.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was special. She yeah, she talked a lot. She just wouldn't shut up. Um, but
Yeah.
I just kept my mouth shut because I couldn't say anything. Anytime I tried to talk, she'd say something.
And you see where I get it
Yeah,
from. Because when you are living with someone who will talk over you, you have to learn to talk over them.
yeah,
And that's why I do that. And
yeah,
I'm trying to work on it. I still, 10 years later, trying to work on it.
yeah.
9 years later.
But anyway,
Um, so yeah, I think within 3 weeks, 3, 4 weeks, about a month after we started dating, actually, you had moved in.
yeah, because it was November when I
Yeah.
moved in.
Yeah. So it was about a month after. And we've been together ever since, spending time together. We been through a lot.
Which is weird because I was dead set about not moving fast at all. Um, I did not want to move in with you really quickly, but things just I don't.
Felt right.
Yeah, I don't usually. Now if it would have been my first marriage or something, yeah, I would have moved quickly for no reason, just because I didn't slow it down manually or anything. But this time it wasn't like I was even trying to speed it up. Um, it just, I mean, I was always down there anyway.
Yeah.
Um, and I'd gotten a job close, but still a couple hours away. But everything just seemed like I was supposed to be going that way, and I learned a long time ago that whenever I feel like I'm supposed to do something, I don't even question it. I just do it. And instead of getting me in trouble, it's usually got me out of trouble
Yeah.
because, it's when I start questioning things, when I start thinking about something too deeply. But I don't know. That, at first I was staying in a cabin down at my aunt and uncle's, or my great and grandpa's farm for a little while.
Yeah.
And I stayed there on the weekdays.
Yeah. After you got the job in
LaFleur
LaFleur
County.
County.
Yeah.
Kept trying to say Latimer, and I'm like, not
No,
Latimer.
no.
It's the L's.
Yeah.
But yeah, you stayed for about 2-3 weeks there before I was just like, why don't you just move in here? Because you were traveling, so far already.
Yeah.
It was about the same travel time between my house and the sheriff's department there,
Yeah.
and your grandma and grandpa's farm, or
Granny and
granny,
grandpa.
I'm sorry, granny and grandpa's farm out in the middle of nowhere, Dog Creek.
Yeah. I mean, I liked living out there because it's in the middle of nowhere, but man, when it rained, it was during the rainy season. I mean,
Cold, rainy season.
it'd get cold. You'd get stuck on the road. Um, so I'm working I get a job over at the sheriff's department, inside the jail, and you're working for branding iron.
Yeah, I loved my crew.
Yeah. I,
Managers were awesome. Loved them.
but you still didn't bring home a whole lot of money. I mean, it was like
No.
$500 a month.
Yeah, something like that. It depended on, really depended on what was going on around town. If there was like the CMA rally or something big going on at
Yeah.
Wolf Pen Gap, uh, you know, any of that, I might make, quite a bit more.
Yeah.
But it just depended on what was going on around town or the
Yeah.
rod run. When the rod run was there was people from outside of the town that would come in, and so I'd make extra tips on those big events.
For a town that gets a lot of their income from out of towners, out of staters, they don't like outsiders.
Mm-mm.
I mean, at all. When I went to work at the sheriff's department, the undersheriff literally said that I would never be a deputy in that town.
What's funny is you're probably related to half the town anyway,
Yeah, they
because
didn't
you're,
know that.
I mean, plenty of your ancestors went through there.
Yeah,
Southerns,
yeah.
uh,
Oh, there's a lot.
Fries. I
Uh,
mean, you have I think like a fourth grade aunt buried out in Opal.
yeah, but still, it's. I mean, there's a lot of corruption, a lot of things. And one thing I learned working there, you would hear about things that would go on in the county that they were pretty hush hush about. I there was a I remember working in the jail. There was this guy that these two officers get a call about uh, a possible domestic. They get there, and this guy is by himself in his house, and they arrested him because he punched his wall, and they
Yeah.
arrested him for criminal mischief. And I'm like, what? You how is that you're in your own home. Nobody was around, but that's the way that area worked and stuff. But I was uh I was trying to keep my nose down and not, you know, because I knew finding jobs there was not an easy thing to
No,
do.
it's not.
The only jobs I knew about um was like Tyson Foods, which owned most of the jobs. And then of course working in law enforcement.
And then there was NIDEC, which
Yeah,
is
but yeah,
which just about everyone works at NIDEC.
yeah, which I probably wouldn't have been able to get on because at that time, your ex-husband did not like me,
Yeah.
and his mother worked there, and she
Yeah.
would not let me get hired on there. So I didn't even look at that as an option.
Yeah.
But so I'm working at the sheriff's department. Um, they think things that went on. So
You had a. I remember one time we had a pig left in our driveway, a dead pig.
I don't remember that.
Yeah. There was a dead pig left in our driveway when I think it was when you were having all the issues down in.
Oh, when I was a sergeant.
Yeah.
Yeah,
When that all started, when you started having issues down there.
yeah.
I
People
don't know
didn't.
what it meant, but
I couldn't get county to help me at all.
no.
When I would call them on the radio, nobody would even answer me.
Yeah.
I could not get assistance from anybody, county, state police, nothing. I mean, they're just, and state police were, I mean, complete assholes with me. There was a wreck one day, and it was on the highway, which meant it was not mine. And it was a rollover. And I call state police there, and he starts getting mad at me and pissed. He yells at me. And I was like, "Isn't it a highway? Aren't you a highway patrol?"
Yeah.
He's like, "Yeah, but you could have done this." I was like, "No, I couldn't have." I was like, "I don't have jurisdiction to do it." So, but that's the way they were. It didn't matter what the law was. It didn't matter what the policy and procedures said. It just mattered what good old boys say and everything. And I was never good at being a good old boy. I mean, now don't get me wrong. I'm not that guy that writes a bunch of tickets or arrests a lot of people. I mean, if you got arrested by me, you deserved it.
Yeah.
I mean, you really actually more than deserved it. Um, but because I try not to arrest people if I could help it, or write citations.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we are at this time we're going into custody battle with uh, your ex-husband.
Yes.
At this time, as a disclaimer, we didn't like each other. None of us liked each other.
Yeah. And
It's
he'll admit it. And I mean, I wasn't perfect, but he admits that he made a lot of mistakes, and he was young and stupid and needed to grow up quite a bit. And, I mean, he's a great guy now and everything, and it's just we,
yeah,
all were young and making decisions that you and I were making decisions that we thought was best, and
and
yeah,
I
it's
mean, I as much as I didn't want to admit it, then I really did not want Tristan to have anything to do with him.
yeah.
Uh,
Well, I mean, he hadn't been around, so he really hadn't had anything to do with him.
yeah,
Um, Honestly, I think the only reason he had come back was because of the girlfriend he had at the time that pushed him to come back. Um, which, looking back, I'm thankful that she did because Tristan needs him in his life.
yeah,
But, at the time, I just, I, yeah, I didn't realize it was going to be a blessing in the end. At that time, all I saw was she was crazy. And, he was listening to her.
yeah.
And, he was not acting very father like.
No, I
And I mean, I've had to get I had to get a police report against her, and I also had to file a temporary restraining order because she stalked me at one point
yeah,
and was calling my work, and that was after we moved up here that she called my work and
yeah,
was harassing me at my job.
yeah. But before
But
we
yeah,
before we
sorry.
did that, we were I was working at Grannis, and I just started there because I didn't work at Grannis for very long, until they started their stuff, and then of course I started seeing how Tyson Foods owned the city of Grannis and the Grannis Police Department, and I just I've never been good at just letting evil or wrong last. If I see something wrong, I just do it. And I mean, it's gotten me fired before.
Yeah.
It's gotten me where the mayor made a made it where I was going to lose my job.
Yeah.
But I don't regret it. And I found there that when you're fighting Tyson Foods, you are literally fighting by yourself. There's not a single person, even when you get an attorney, the attorney's not on your side.
Yeah. I to this day won't buy anything Tyson.
Yeah. They
Not only did they treat, the whole department like they're on private security and everything with you, but I've heard horror stories from people that I know that work at Tyson.
yeah.
Um, they make I've heard about them having their employees wear diapers to
Yeah.
work instead of and because they can't use the restroom.
Yeah. And there are a lot of people that work there are illegals.
Yeah.
One of the biggest crimes that I dealt with, there was a kid that I was kind of mentoring there. He was in and out of jail, real young. He's only like 18, 19 years old. And he said he was trying to get a job at Tyson Foods and he couldn't get hired on there because apparently he worked there. And he had worked there 3 times and he had never been there a day in his life.
Yeah.
But somebody had his ID and, nobody had worked the case. So, about the false ID or anything. It's just that's the way it is over there, and everybody's okay with it because well, that's how they get money. It's the same concept as food stamps and welfare and stuff. You get so used to using that, needing that, that you will sacrifice morals and values, and just plain what's right, um, just so you don't lose it.
Yeah.
but but I wouldn't. I mean, I remember uh, the chief came up to me because when I exposed that, I'm like, hey, we cannot have in our policy and procedure manual, it said that Tyson Foods comes first, then the city of Granite, then the city of Wicks. And I said we cannot do that. I was the sergeant. My job was to fix the SOP manual. And I said, that's unlawful. It's an unlawful order. And he said, it doesn't matter. Tyson Foods gives the city $20,000 a year just for tires, and they do all this other stuff. And everybody that works,
I think they paid for the department's gas too
yeah,
for the
they did a lot
vehicles.
of things. Um, and they said that's why they had nice vehicles and
Yeah.
everything. But they said that um, as long as they're still paying for stuff that we're just whatever they want, that's just what's going to happen and everything. And I said, well, I can't do that. And he said, well, you got to. He pulled me over one day on the side of the road to talk to him, the chief, and he said, you need to start thinking about your son, my stepson.
Yeah.
And I said, well, that's exactly what I'm thinking about. I can't look at my son in the eye and tell him that we do what's right because it's right, but then not do it. I'm
Yeah.
not just a mouthpiece. I really mean it. And I'd never had a son before. I'd never had a dad before. And so to me, um, a lot of people, I see people that had shitty fathers and they become shitty fathers themselves. And I don't understand that because me not having a dad, what it did was make me grow up knowing what I wish would have happened to me, what somebody would have done for me, how they would have treated me or thought about me or something. But it also made me a lot more stricter because I didn't understand certain things like crying when you're hurting and stuff. Um, God, I forget. I remember you used to tell him anytime he'd get hurt and he'd cry, and you're like, "Well, are you bleeding?" Well, then stop crying. And I knew what was going to happen. And as soon as he started, he was bleeding just a barely, just a little. He got a little cut on him, and he started acting like the world was coming to an end. And I called you. I'm like, well, you hear that? That's your son. He's dying. He's bleeding to death right now. That's just the way he
I
was.
was a
But
young mom. You gotta give
yeah,
me credit though, because I wasn't letting them cry over little things.
yeah. But but I really, I gave everything. I everything, anything I was willing, anything that would make him grow up safer, happier, and protected, I would do it.
Yeah, and then
And I don't mean that as in helicopter protective. I meant like my job, my number one job was him, was to make sure he's taken care of, and you. And that's why when your
this
mother,
well, this all happened in like before July, so it was like uh, April, June, and when you started realizing what was going on, you're like, "Hey, I don't think we should stay here. Let's look at other places to move.
yeah,
Let's look at Oklahoma." It was
yeah,
like in June we had talked about looking in Oklahoma.
I forgot we before I even lost my job, I
Yeah,
was
because
talking
you
about
well, you
leaving.
were still because you had realized how bad it was. You said
Yeah,
this is bad.
yeah,
What they're doing is wrong. We have to, I don't feel right staying here. I don't
yeah,
feel right staying with this department. And so we started looking at different departments in Oklahoma
yeah,
because you didn't want to get out of law enforcement. I wasn't going to make you. I
yeah,
knew it was a passion of yours. And so we had discussed it for about 2 months. I don't even remember when it all went down where you got fired, but in July 4th, the 4th of July, we were over at Susie and Jim's house.
yeah.
Susie's my mother. I call her by her name. Um, Susie and Jim's house.
Jim is her stepdad.
Yeah, and Jim is my stepdad. Um, and uh, we were there celebrating, have a good time. And we mentioned that we were looking at moving to Oklahoma. And Jim got pissed. And he started yelling at me, saying that he was not going to allow me to move to Oklahoma.
Yeah, then
And he had rights to Tristan to keep Tristan from moving to Oklahoma, and or he had a say. That's what it was. It wasn't rights. He said he had a say. I'm trying to remember. It's coming back slowly. Um, in whether Tristan got to move or not, and he was saying no. And I said, "You don't have a say in any of this. You're not his parent."
yeah,
And that's when it started going really downhill with Jim and
yeah.
Susie.
Before this exact moment, they would always talk about how much they loved me, and even though we think completely different politically, they really loved me and enjoyed me. Blah 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 blah. I didn't yell at all. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't argue. I didn't argue with anything he said because to me there was no point in arguing. One, I don't yell at somebody in their own house, and we were in his house, and so I just looked at her and I said, honey, we're gonna go, and that's it. That was the moment that he hated me, was because I said we're gonna go.
And
Um,
you looked at him and said, "You're not going to yell at my wife, and we're leaving." And you were calm, like super calm about it. And it was even worse. He starts yelling about, I can't even remember everything right now,
yeah.
what he was yelling about, but he was just irate about the fact that you had the audacity to tell him we were leaving when he was pissed that he had no say
And at this
in what
moment,
happened to
we
Tristan.
we only knew what he told us. I hadn't even done research on him
Yeah.
yet. He had said that he was a Harvard graduate. He said that he was
Harvard Law School
Harvard
graduate.
Law School graduate. He said that he went to he was a Supreme Court justice out of California. He said that he worked for the NSA and the CIA. I mean, he was in the Navy and then did the NSA and CIA. Supreme Court justice. He was also a Los Angeles police commissioner, and he was a there's one more thing that he said he was. Uh,
He was a lawyer and he worked
and he
with
was a
people.
lawyer that he worked a lot of cases.
I think he's made it out like he worked mob cases.
Yeah, he talked about this one case with these two corrupt highway patrol officers and how they stole money, and he told them not to say a word and they would get off, but they talked anyway, and then they ended up getting the sentence handed to them and stuff. And come to find out, I decided after this, when he started acting like this, I'm like, he is not acting like a lot.
No,
I've
he's
never
also
believed he acted the way a person with them kind of credentials act, because I've been around people like that, that with them type of credentials. Not all of them, because nobody has all of them credentials. That right there was just too much. But I have met people that were CIA. I've met people that were NSA. I've met people that were FBI, stuff like that. So I knew people like that were not the type to sit there and be uh, boisterous about who they are
yeah.
and try to push their authority around like that. They were a lot more manipulative when it came to trying to control you. And so I decided to do some research and come to find out the only thing he'd done was he graduated law school, but it was not Harvard Law School. It was some Thomas Jefferson Law School, or
It was John Brown.
John Brown. I had a name in it. I knew that.
Yeah, it was
But
John Brown University.
John Brown University law, and he had never actually done anything with the law
Couldn't
degree.
find anything about him with the
Nothing.
law degree.
He never did anything. He just passed the bar. Um, uh, Actually, I don't even know if he passed the bar.
He did pass the bar, but I couldn't
I
find
can't remember.
anything on his uh, about his law degree anywhere. We called. I don't remember who we called. We called somebody over there asking about stuff about him in California. I can't remember
We
who
called
it
the
was.
bar and
And
asked them.
well, they didn't. They said there was no cases that he had worked.
Yeah.
Is what
He's
it
never
was.
worked cases or anything. But he used all this when we went to court to get Tristan to be able to move out of state. He actually gets on the stand, and the judge kept on saying, "You're not going to tell. No, we don't need to know what your credentials are. We don't need to." He went ahead and told it because he was wanting to say, "Look at what I can do. Well, look what I know. I'm this special person."
One thing our lawyer did do was get up there and go, I did a background check on you, and I can't find any of this stuff you say about you, to be true. And he goes, well, you just didn't look hard enough.
Yeah.
And yeah, after he was up there doing his whole spiel and talking to the court reporter and just being crazy, the judge said, let's take a break. And he wanted to see both attorneys in his office. And I got told this by the court reporter because she's actually a friend of mine who I used to ride horses with. I say a friend of mine. She's someone I knew from riding horses. And she actually, when I was a teenager, got me a job riding horses for a thoroughbred farm.
No.
But so she tells me after the fact that he called the attorneys into his office to tell them, listen, I don't know what this is, but if either of you have any more witnesses or any more crazy witnesses like that last one, I'm going to call the case right here, right now, and we're going to end this.
Yeah.
And the court reporter told me that just about everybody who had been in that courtroom or knew about it just were laughing about everything that had went on with Jim. Like
Yeah.
how he was acting, everything. They thought it was hilarious.
And at this point, the deputies actually believed him. I mean, they were all on his side because they didn't like me because I was an out of stater.
Yeah.
And I got a job with the Grandis Police Department, and I shouldn't have been allowed to work in law enforcement because I was not from there. and I remember because we before that we had asked we set up a time to meet up TJ, and he never showed up. So we went to a certain deputy that actually I thought I'd actually sold a goat to. I thought, that we were pretty kosher with him, and we asked him if he would just log down on the radio that he never showed. He said, "I don't get involved in in uh, custody battles or anything like that." That was his exact words. This exact deputy, shows up for court to witness for them to say that uh, when we showed up or when we always showed up, but basically he was there for them. But
Yeah.
and that in essence is the way the corruption goes there. It's
And
just
yeah, I now during this court thing, and I, finding out that Susie had gone to the other attorneys and said just a bunch of outlandish things. I was she was still my mom at that time, and I still wanted to try to have a relationship with her. But when she did that, I went to her and I told her, if you testify those lies in court against me, I will never speak to you again. And she tells me, "Oh, I won't." But the next thing I know, she gets a subpoena to come testify. And she goes, "Well, I told them I wasn't going to testify against you and they'd have to treat me like a hostile witness."
which doesn't happen in this kind of case. They're just
No.
not going to call you.
And but she gets subpoenaed and shows up. And now, my uncle drove 5 hours just to be there for me as support. My uncle, my dad's brother.
Yeah.
He's been there for me since my dad passed away, and he's a really good guy. Um, Sorry.
Yeah.
he so he showed up, and when we went to lunch on this court thing, the judge told us, basically just don't interact with each other. Uh, we're gonna take lunch. We'll be back at a certain time. I go out and I'm sitting in my uncle's truck, and my uncle and I are talking, and Jim comes up and tries to play Mr. Innocent. And this was after he had testified. And he comes up and said he just wants to talk. And I said, "I don't want to talk to you."
Yeah.
And my uncle, who's, not a, what's the word I'm thinking of? Not a confrontational person. He even was pretty ticked off, and he told Jim, "Just leave. She doesn't want to talk to you. I don't want you to talk to her either." And Jim started cussing us out, saying that he was just doing what was best for Tristan, and we're being ridiculous and stuff like that. I can't remember all that he said, but it was very outlandish, I guess
No.
you could say. You weren't in the vehicle.
No.
I don't remember where you were, but I was sitting in my uncle's truck when this all went down. But yeah, it was a pretty crazy experience for the whole thing we went through with the court.
No.
And the first time DHS called, uh, I was at work, and they were on their way to my house, and they called me to let me know that they were stopping by and they had questions. And so I had to leave in the middle of a work day to go deal with DHS.
That anonymous complaint.
Yeah, an
Which, by the way,
anonymous
nobody knows
complaint.
me. Nobody there knows me at all. And
And
the information they knew was your mom is the only person that knew
yeah,
because she was there when I'd gotten my medication and stuff.
when they said what was said against you, I knew we right away knew who it was.
Yeah.
And of course she says, I can't tell you that. I can't tell you who sent it.
Yeah.
And she said she was going to write it off. There was no, or not, write it off, you know what I mean, close the case. And then the second time, uh, it was just a phone call. They didn't stop by. They just called. And I said, I know you can't tell me, but I can't remember exactly what I said, but I said something about it being either a Jim Krause or a Susanna Hart that called it in.
Yeah.
And the way she answered, I can't remember saying yes, it was either one of those,
Yeah.
but without saying it was because she
Yeah.
legally couldn't. And, but she said, I already know this is a false thing. She said, but if they do it again, and she said, if they do it again, they will be charged with making a false report.
Yeah.
And harassment. And I should have not told her, but I went to Susie. I saw her at Walmart, and I looked at her and I said, I know you know who's calling DHS and making the false reports. You should let them know that DHS said that if they get any more false reports, that they're going to file for a warrant for making false reports against the person that's making them.
Yeah.
And if I hadn't, maybe they would have learned their lesson. But yeah, and it was,
Yeah. Ever since we decided that we're going to Oklahoma, we became the bad guys. They weren't trying to fight for Tristan because there was never anything wrong with Tristan. Tristan was DHS even said, he was a happy kid. In fact, people had said that he was happier now than he used to be because when he was basically being watched by her all the time, he was either in trouble, getting yelled at, or he got anything he wanted, and which is a horrible structure for a little kid, which made it so much horrible worse on us later on because before he was even 5, he was never around me. He was at with them all the time, and he didn't learn structure. He didn't. I mean,
he was
he
3 when we got together. Yeah, it was 2013. Or 14,
2014.
sorry, 14. And he was 3. He was born in 2011.
Well, he's 3.5. He's
Yeah,
almost
three
4
and a
years
half.
old.
Yeah. I was just
So
correcting that.
basically,
Yeah.
he was 4
Yeah.
during all this. So 4 or 5 years old, he was still being around there and stuff. But the point being was that most of his experience was with them and not having any structure.
Yeah.
I mean, he was still in diapers
Yeah.
at
And
4 years old.
had him where he was almost potty trained, and then I started working full time, and it was reversed.
Yeah, because they didn't want him. They'd get mad whenever I remember the first time I had him pronouncing your sister's name properly, Coda. They got mad at me because they said we don't want him talking like a Fraser Crane. I'm like, that's a far stretch from Fraser Crane. That's just saying a word properly.
Yeah.
But regardless, it didn't matter. I mean, I still, even today, I don't even hold ill will towards them. I don't care. But I wasn't going to sit back and let them um, control you. One, they can't control me.
Yeah.
And I told them whenever we got married, I said they're not to pay any of the bills anymore. That's my job.
And someone who had grown up in that situation, I did not realize how bad it was until I started opening my eyes to it. And I didn't realize how manipulative and controlling Susie and Jim were, and how manipulative Susie is.
Yeah.
Because I grew up in it. It was just my life.
Well,
And then as you came around and you're like, why are you doing that? I'm like, because that's just what I've always done. Why are you calling her when you're upset when you know she's going to make you upset? And I'm like, that's just what I've always done. And so, I mean, it just, having somebody there to help you open your eyes to the fact that you are in a form of abusive parental child relationship. It wasn't, I mean, I never had it as bad as a lot of people, but I didn't realize that it was a narcissistic, abusive parental child relationship until you came around and started opening my eyes to it.
the way I look at things, I don't I don't think it's my job to change everything. And I'm not trying to be the superhero or anything, but I grew up around a habitual liar. I grew up around a rapist, a murderer, abusers. And I grew up around narcissists and people that control people. And I knew, being the son of a victim, that what's happening. I saw from the outside what's happening whenever you're being controlled. How are they controlling you? That them paying for something. Anytime somebody pays something for you, they control you. They own you.
Yeah.
And when you're allowing them, that it's like the very first thing she said whenever we said we were going to move. Well, I was going to buy you a new house. Well, why
Yeah.
didn't you buy a new house before then? Why wait? Why do you have to wait? I mean, the house was already falling apart. Why didn't they do that? So it's there, but that's why they paid for everything, was because when they pay for it, they control you. And when I came around, I don't want you to be controlled. I don't want you to be controlled by them, but I don't want you to be controlled by me either.
Yeah.
I said it with my second wife. I remember very plainly. She was incapable of doing anything. She was a very codependent person. I worked very hard to make sure that she wasn't a codependent person. Uh, Not that I wanted her to leave me. It's just that I didn't want somebody to stay with me just because they have no other choice.
Yeah.
And I don't want you to be with me, because to me, it hurts worse for you to be with me because you have to be with me than not. I can become single and be fine. That sounds horrible, but I've been there. So I know I can survive. I don't want to survive like that, but I know I can.
Yeah.
But I'd be miserable if I stayed with you and you were with me only because you couldn't go anywhere else, because you're going to resent me.
Yeah.
You're going to resent everybody. You resent your mother. I mean, because the way she was, she never did anything. She never, cut your hair right. She never,
Yeah,
took care of
saw.
you.
You finally saw one of my childhood pictures where I
Yeah.
had a boy's haircut,
I mean, it was
and
just,
I was,
she
yeah,
cared about herself. And I didn't want you to do that. I wanted you to know that what you're worth, and that you don't accept less than what you believe that you're worth. You
yeah,
know, you may never feel as worth as what you really are, but you shouldn't go less.
yeah,
Go that far down where it's like somebody's just abusing you, treating you. I mean, because in essence, if I wouldn't have said we're leaving, we could still be there, and I'd be working for Tyson Foods or something. Living a miserable life and us
we wouldn't
being
have
very
autumn.
unhappy. We wouldn't have autumn.
I would say we wouldn't have autumn.
Yeah,
There would have been something that we wouldn't have had her, just because we would have been stressed out
yeah.
and not in the right frame of mind to even for that to even happen.
But I truly believe in always becoming better than what you were.
Yeah.
If you don't feel stupid for the way you thought a couple of years ago, then are you really learning anything?
Yeah.
I mean, you should always feel like you were an idiot when you were younger. I mean, I do constantly. I'm always looking, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. I'll see stuff from Facebook that I wrote, about how religious I was. And I'm like, and I'm way more spiritual now than I've ever been. I'm way closer to God now than I've ever been.
But you're not as
But I was so
religious.
religious, and I was beating the Bible, and I couldn't answer why. And that's the way most people are. They don't know why. They're just doing it because somebody else told them. They don't want to go dig deep into something and find out anything. They don't want to know the truth. They don't want to know the truth about their parents. They don't want
Yeah.
to know that somebody's controlling them. They don't want to know that Jim's a narcissist that has lived off trust funds his whole life and everything. I mean, your mother doesn't want to know that. She wants to think that he's this savior that now she gets a $7,000 a month.
It's more now.
Well, I meant when he was still alive.
Yeah.
She was getting a $7,000 a month allowance to spend any way she wanted, you know, and that's just the way they lived. And would he was because I remember we stayed in his
The
Palm
condo
Springs
in
and
Palm Springs
his condo in Palm Springs,
for our
and it
honeymoon.
was super immaculate and clean, everything, and that's the way he is. But then he wasn't now because your mother would never straighten her shit up, and so he just gave up. And that's the way people like that are. They 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 bully their way, and if they can't do it anymore, they just give up.
Yeah.
I don't bully anybody. I just
And I am slowly working out of that uh,
mentality.
mentality that I grew up with of not keeping a clean house because I mean I never had anybody show me how to keep a house. So I've had to learn. And I am slowly learning. I'm getting better every year,
Yeah.
but no when you know, but anyway, getting back to the whole court and everything cuz we went down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
It's it was it was a very trying thing to know that somebody who was supposed to love you unconditionally only loved you when you were doing what they wanted and how they wanted it, which I should have realized a lot sooner, but I grew up in that. That's just how it was. Um, if didn't do what she liked or disagreed with her, you were crazy, bipolar, and needed to be on meds. Um, and so, it's still, even, now thinking back, it still does hurt that someone who is supposed to love you could do so much to hurt you and hurt your child, their grandchild, and hurt your husband. And, you know, it was a very difficult time for us, but we stayed together. We held each other, you know, up and kept each other strong and made it through and got court's permission to move.
And it never even occurred to me to leave, to give up or anything. It never even crossed my mind. The only time it crossed my mind in a way is when you said that she had approached you and said that if you were to um,
If I was
leave,
to leave you, everything that was going on with THS, the court stuff, everything that we were having issues with would just drop, would disappear.
and my thought was, I'm not going to voluntarily leave. But if you were to decide, I wouldn't even get upset with you because, of course, you decide your son first. He was around before I was.
Yeah.
And I know people disagree with me, but your kids, in a way, it's not exactly you get one is more important than the other. That's not the way it exactly works. But when it comes to taking care of, your kids are first because they don't have anybody else to take care of them. So
Yeah.
you do take care of them first. Um, now that doesn't mean you side with your kids all the time first or anything. You don't do that. You have a unified front with your spouse. But I I knew that could be a play and that's what was going to happen. But I that was the first time I remember really praying hard about something, and asking God, what do you want me to do?
Yeah.
And
It never even crossed my mind to separate because I was just like, one, I was just really ticked off that she would even suggest that.
Yeah.
or would say that. And two, I was like, no,
Yeah.
I'm going to be happy.
Yeah. And then of course we go to court, and the first thing he does is ask me, well, I don't know if it's first the order it came, but one of the things he asked me is like, so who did you know at this job? Because I got a job in Oklahoma pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Um, in fact, I get fired, and within 2 weeks I have a job in Oklahoma. Um, and in fact, when I went to the unemployment office and I was applying and stuff, um, they they told me that they weren't used to people actually getting jobs.
Yeah.
Most people don't. They just do it just so that they can keep getting their unemployment check or keep getting welfare. And I didn't want welfare. I wanted work. I even told them, I was like, I don't really want to get unemployment or anything. Because I told them, I was like, by the time they even decide whether I do or do not get unemployment, I was like, I'm already going to have a job.
And you did.
And I did. And he asked me, he said, well, who do you know that works at this company? I said, no one. He said, you don't know a single person there. I'm like, no. He said, well, how'd you get the job then? I applied.
Yeah.
I applied, and then I went up there and talked to them, and that's how I know how to get a job. And so that didn't work. It ended up backfiring him. Then he decided he wanted to make me look like I'm stupid because of the post I post on Facebook, like it was going to be bad, like illegal or something. And there was a picture of me as back when I was I like to make fun of people that are doing stupid trends, and people start taking pictures of themselves of doing stupid things. And so I took a picture, and it just said pooping pics. And it was just a picture of
Yeah.
me while I was on the pot. And I mean, it was just my face and stuff, but you could tell
Yeah.
I was looking down. And he said, why'd you post this? I said, because it was funny. And everybody started cracking up.
Yeah, I remember the one because it's still funny. You had a picture of a chicken, and it said, "Look at my pecker. Look at it."
Yeah.
It was a chicken.
It is like, and he kept on going, trying to make me sound like I was stupid, and it didn't, because it just made me sound human. Yeah, I have a sense of humor. I'm not one that's going to watch what I say and stuff because of political correctness. I mean, it was funny. But then he starts talking about how I didn't get divorced until 2 months before we got married, and 2 or 3 months before we got
Yeah.
married. And I told him, and I explained to him, I was like, I didn't know that. I was like, we've been split up for several years.
Didn't
I
know she had not
I
filed.
thought we were divorced. I said, but I said, he said, well, you weren't for a couple of months. I said, well, we didn't get married in Oklahoma. We got married in Arkansas.
Yeah. We
Um,
just had a
we just had our
ceremony.
ceremony in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And everything. In fact, my buddy was the officiator, and he went to Arkansas and filed for everything, so everything was there. He said, "Well, what if you find out right now that y'all's not actually married?" Thinking that, oh, he's got the silver bullet and stuff. He's going to win the case because, oh, they're not actually married. Like that even matters at all. But I said easy. We go downstairs and get married.
Yeah.
I mean, right now.
And this court stuff and everything all happened in 2016.
Yeah, it happened a year after we were already married.
So if there had been any issues, we would have found out before then.
Yeah. So we and there wasn't and stuff. In
Yeah.
fact, even the judge
Judge, yeah,
finally
was
spoke
like-
up, which tells you about our attorney didn't even speak up, but the judge spoke up and said, "You can't hold hold a law, another state's law against them.
Yeah.
We can't do anything about that." Our attorney didn't even say anything, which says a lot, because she never did anything. She was supposed to be this pit bull and everything, but she didn't. She didn't do anything. She filed paperwork, and even then, it was like, when we finally we got the okay, and the judge said, "Hey, I'm the only reason I'm allowing him to keep his parental rights is because in the state of Arkansas, if you spend 5 minutes with the father in 1 year, then I cannot take your rights away. And he did, barely, but he did. And I'm glad now. I'm very glad that happened now. But we move up here, and your mother never once called Tristan, never once called us, nothing, no
And they
contact
had our
whatsoever.
not.
They have our number, they have your sister's number, who you talk to your sister. I mean, they had lots of ways to get a hold of them. I still had my same phone number, you know,
Yeah, you still have that
and I
same
still
phone
have that
number.
phone number. And they could have done that, but they didn't. But what she did do was she filed in Arkansas, um,
For
grandparents' rights.
yep.
The funny thing about it is, the federal law stated that there's no such thing as grandparents' rights. Arkansas concurred that there's no such thing as grandparents' rights, but they also have another law that says you have the right to file for grandparents' rights, even though there's no such thing as grandparents' rights. So it's
Yeah.
basically a way that they can make $500.
It was this happened right, she filed for this right in the middle of my pregnancy with Autumn. And
Yeah,
I was having all those issues, and we were worried about Autumn. And I told my oldest sister, hey, tell her, I'm having all these health problems, and just to stop until at least after the baby's born, because, I'm under a lot of stress it is. And I know my sister told her, and it didn't
oh,
matter. It didn't matter because she didn't care about this child.
no, she
She didn't care about my well-being, the baby's well-being. And even my doctor, my OBGYN, she wrote a letter to the court saying, hey, my patient's having issues. This is putting a lot of stress on her. She doesn't need this kind of stress right now when she's pregnant. If you could hold off until after the baby's born, that'd be great.
yeah,
Sent it, and we sent it to our attorney. Our attorney sent it to their attorney and the courts, but nobody did anything.
no,
They did it, and nobody cared. They had me travel a 6-hour round trip at 8 months pregnant to go to court.
yeah, and still didn't do nothing. They
Yeah,
didn't do
didn't do
anything
anything.
that day.
Yeah,
They just you showed up to court, and we didn't even have to do anything. Just go there
yeah,
and
and
file for something else. And in fact, we still have an open case there, and it's been years.
yeah,
I mean, it's
and
been
it's
7 years now.
yeah.
And but
I think what got me and ticked me off, and our attorney did nothing, was that their attorney said, if talking about me, if she gets on the stand, all she's going to do is say a bunch of lies and make us and throw a pity party to
um,
try to get this case thrown out or something like that. And I'm like, and my attorney said nothing. Not a damn word.
yeah, they it's because over there you don't have to actually do anything as an attorney. You just push
And
papers.
so, yeah. And I'm glad we don't have her as attorney anymore, because it's just, I
Yeah,
didn't realize how bad she was.
no, I anyway, everything whenever we got and I really believe it was somebody on the other side talking to both of us that said to quit fighting TJ about anything, you know, and we did. And I mean, like instantly, we had no more stress about it. He was kosher about it. We were kosher. We, I mean, there was, of course, for a while, there was, I mean, we were all thinking, is somebody going to turn around and pull something? But
Yeah.
nobody ever did. You know, it was just, and now
Yeah.
it's,
And honestly, he grew up a lot.
you know,
And his wife, and she's a sweetheart. I'd say a sweetheart. She's Italian.
yeah,
So she's got that Italian attitude, which I love. And she's whipped him into shape. And she's a great, great mom to Tristan. She takes good care of him.
yeah.
But now we're all good friends, and We
Yeah.
have joint custody. We, equal share custody.
We quit the we discovered when we moved over here that how much the Oklahoma and Arkansas government was making off of the child support. Like 25% of the child support was going to the states
Between Arkansas
between
and
Arkansas and
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma, and they didn't have to do anything. I mean, they were uh, the check went through them, and that was it. That's all that had to happen.
Yeah.
Um, they didn't enforce anything. They
Nope.
didn't, they should have, but they didn't, at the beginning and stuff. And so, whenever we talked to TJ after a while, because Tristan, which I explained it in here, Tristan was God. He was bad when I first came around, but he got worse and worse, and he kept getting worse. And I mean, I'm talking sociopath worse. He would lie about the most ridiculous things that you didn't have to lie about. That he was like one time he when he was doing dishes, he was he's like 10 years old at this
It
time,
was 11.
11 years old, whatever. Um, he was doing dishes, and he was told very specifically by his mama not to wash the lids in the dishwasher. He had to hand wash them. And so we turned and looked at him. They're like, are the lids in the dishwasher? He said yes. And so he got in trouble. He got a butt busting, and they weren't in there at
Yeah.
all.
They were in the sink.
They were in the sink. He was looking right at them, but that's what he did. He just constantly. It lying to him. Everything was just about telling a story about what it sounds like it should be, instead of what it is. Instead of trying to be honest about something, it was I was running out of steam. I was running out of. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't, if I kept busting his butt any harder, I mean, it ended up turning into abuse, and I didn't want to be that guy. I don't like. I mean, like my daughter, I've never had to raise a hand to her at all. I've never had to yell at her.
She hates getting in
Yeah,
trouble.
but I
She's
mean,
like me in the aspect of getting in trouble really upsets her.
yeah. But anyway, I TJ had gotten hold of me and said that he was really wanting to. Well, Tristan asked once, but it was because Tristan was in trouble at the time
And just
and
didn't want to deal with
didn't want to get in
the
trouble, and so
consequences
he
of being
figured
in
if he could
trouble.
just quick say, "Well, I want to move out," then he doesn't have to deal with the consequences. And I wasn't going to do that, and I told TJ that. But TJ had talked to me once and said that he really would like to have custody of him. He'd like to try it and
Have Tristan live with them
have
and
Tristan living with him. And I mean, we were at the point we were about to send him off to boarding school because he nothing was working. So just him getting away from everything. So I talked to Sierra and I'm like, I know how I am, and the kid's never going to have a childhood, and I will guarantee you not having a childhood sucks. Not you don't get that back. And even though me personally, I know, well, he didn't earn it, so I'm not going to reward him. It's still wrong, but I know I can't myself get myself to do that. So I said I think it might be best, and so we get a hold of TJ, and I tell him that that I do think it'd be all right. I was like, but instead of him owing any more on because he owed years of back child support, I said, how about we just call it even? You don't owe any more, but we don't pay any. It's just
yeah,
it's just fair
it's
even.
just nobody is getting money from the other.
Yeah. And to be completely honest, I mean, the way it would have ended up because they wouldn't have used my income as child support anyway, it would be yours.
And I don't have one.
You don't have an income, so he would have never it it would have never gotten to the point where we would have had to pay anything. But I wasn't worried about that. I was worried about taking care of Tristan. And this way it's just fair. We don't have to think about the worries. We don't have to pay the government to do nothing.
Yeah.
They a lot of their retirement funds, their teachers' retirement funds, comes from child support. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna support that. Um, but for a while, Tristan was staying the little shit he'd always been. But this past 6 months, he seemed to
He's
be changing a
yeah,
lot.
he's really straightened out
Um,
and he's doing really well. He's an AB student.
yeah,
I think he's got one C, but it was just because something wasn't added onto the grades
yeah.
before uh, report cards went
And
out.
that's the thing. That's the hard part about being a parent is getting your personal emotions out of it. What actually is best to raise them? What will they need? And I told TJ, I was like, no matter what, I would never replace him as a father because I don't have the same genes. I don't know how he ticks.
Yeah.
I can't know for sure, because I can't feel it. And I think it's, whether or not the father is a douche or not, still the father needs to be, you know, there. It makes a
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah.
Even if it's just so the kid knows the father's a douche,
Yeah.
but he still needs to know because kid gets lost without him. But all I ever wanted was Tristan to turn into a good kid because I saw him going down the road as my brother because he acted just like my brother. As much as he lied and everything, and I didn't want him to be where he just, I mean, was so lazy and such a thief and a liar that he just ends up in prison and drugs and stuff the rest of his life.
Yeah.
We have enough douche canoes like that in this world. Um, but it didn't end up like that, and
No.
it sucks because Scooter, I mean, she absolutely adores her brother.
And he now that he's straightened out, he realizes how important his sister is,
Yeah,
and both of his sisters, because he's got an older sister from TJ,
yeah,
and so he's like he puts her, tries to put her first.
yeah,
Like when we were down at Scott's, I mean, he made sure she was all right when she wasn't feeling good that one day.
yeah,
He was checking on her. I mean, he's turning out to be a good kid, and I really do. I'm thankful for TJ and Deanna.
yeah. And they're especially TJ's pretty old school like me. He doesn't do the whole school thing where it's about freaking division. I mean, dividing kids up and making them weaker and dumber, and and trying to get them to hate each other and stuff. I mean, it's just like quit hating everybody, but stand up for yourself.
Yeah,
You know, and so he me and him both have said, if you're going to be dumb, you better be strong.
yeah,
You know, and if you're going to be weak, you better be smart.
yeah,
And so we try to push that on him and stuff because, and it's all four of us being parents. We think it's important.
yeah.
Um, and they check up on Scooter Autumn all the time and everything. And but I don't know. It was
And Deanna, she doesn't have any kids of her, like natural kids of her own, biological kids, but she and Tristan have a really, really good relationship, and she is so
yeah,
amazing. I mean, uh, I know Tristan was trying not to say it in front of me because he was worried about hurting my feelings, but he called her mom one day to me, and then you could see the look of like, oh crap, on his face. Then I'm like, I don't care if you call her mom. She's your other mom.
oh,
She may not have given birth to you, but she takes care of you. When you're not here, you're there, and she takes care of you. She loves you. I don't care. You can
yeah.
call her that.
So things have changed quite a bit
Yeah.
since he's left and everything, and we and I guess I should um
Probably end.
yeah, let's go ahead and end right now and
Yeah.
pick up tomorrow because I'm trying to so, thinking about whenever I did the other video and stuff.
So I'll
And
have to start watching that one so we can go on to the
Yeah,
next bit.
it's trying to
Go
remember
into, I think what we're the next one is going to be about
everything because
and
I
then after
thought
she's born.
I just thought it was important that I involved you because my memory about that everything is
Yeah.
not necessarily spot on.
No.
Um,
You combined it combined, I said combined it. Oh my goodness.
yeah,
Combined two events and blended it into one with
yeah,
her.
yeah.
So,
I I just remember what I think is important and what's not important.
yeah.
But anyway, I appreciate it. And if you have any more questions, I mean, just send me a text, call me, leave me a comment, let me know what you need.